Guys, today we're gonna be talking about rectangular data. So, what is rectangular data? Let's start introduce the definition of rectangular data. That is essentially a two-dimensional matrix with rows indicating records and columns indicating features. As we have previously discussed about the most common type of a two-dimensional matrix in the real world that we use to perform data storage and data analysis is a spreadsheet from Excel, right? And people that have already used Python also know the data frame from pandas. There is a common kind of two-dimensional matrix, and where the data is indexed by rows and columns. Have a big problem. Oops. We always have a big problem. The data doesn't always come in an organized way. What they're saying is that most of the data that we're gonna be working with is unstructured data. So it does not have a predefined structure, and we are talking about, I don't know, maybe text documents, images, emails, and because of that we need to have a understanding of the data that we are going to be working with, and build ETL tools to process and manipulate that data so it can be represented as a set of feature. So we're gonna be talking about ETL right now. I think some of you guys already know what a ETL means, but I'm just going to explain it. Let me just return, put my pencil, and an ETL stands for extract, transform, and load. As you guys can see, three steps that we do to get the data in an unstructured form and transform it into organized information, feed it to a data warehouse, for example. So we have the extract step that retrieves and verifies data from multiple data sources. Okay, we have the transform step that processes and organizes our extracted data so it can be useful by data scientists and data analysts. And we have finally the load phase, where we gather this transformed data and feed it to some kind of data repository. I think the most common one is a data warehouse, where we have a predefined structure of database and tables, and it's very common for data scientists and data analysts to work with organized data because it makes our works a lot easier. And so you guys have in mind that in the real world we have a lot of unstructured data, and in a day-to-day basis of a data scientist, we need to do a lot of ETL to process the data and feed it to a predefined model so we can use later to, I don't know, build some analysis, train some machine learning models. But first we need to move the raw data into an organized structure, and after that we can use to our objectives in the data team. Okay, so moving forward, we also have non-rectangular data. There are other types of data structures beside the rectangular data. I think the most famous example is the time series data, right? They record success measurements for the same variable. Here we have a chart for an example of a time series data we can see that we have only a dependent variable, okay, right here, and we have the dimension time, and what is basically saying that the value of the dependent variable may assume a different value over time. So if we I don't know, maybe pinpoint some data point here, and I don't know, maybe point some data point here, we can see that beside these data points contain the same dependent variable right here, right? They may assume different values depending on the moment that we are analyzing it. So because of that, time series data cannot be considered a rectangular data structure. And we also have another examples like spatial data and graphs, and I'm not gonna talk about it right now, but if you guys are gonna take my class on NLP, I'm gonna talk about a lot about graphs, right? And you guys just gonna see why this kind of data structure is not a rectangular data structure, and it's very different actually. So I'm gonna explain to you guys later. It's not part of this course, okay? And just have in mind that we have rectangular data that is the most common type of data used by data scientists, and we have non-rectangular data that we also use, but in very specific case, okay? And that's it for the class of today. If you have any questions, you can reach out by email and you can send in time, okay? And I promise I'll answer as fast as I can. And you can also leave some comments in the platform, and me or the support team are gonna be responding to you guys, okay? See you in the next class.